Welcome to Module 3, How to Implement or Re-Energize a P3O. The syllabus areas that we're going to look into would be how to implement or re-energize a P3O R. At level 2, we would be looking into how PPM maturity will impact on the design, planning, and delivery of the P3O model and the P3O blueprint. We would examine the key focus areas in the implementation lifecycle for a temporary program or project office and how these will influence the temporary P3O lifecycle. At level 3, we'll examine the activities to implement or re-energize a P3O, a permanent P3O. We would look into the use of P3O key implementation outputs, including the content, when they should be produced and updated in the permanent P3O implementation lifecycle, and the impact that PPM maturity will have on their design. We would examine the activities to implement a temporary program or project office. And at level 4 thinking, we will look into the implementation or re-energizing of a permanent P3O, and has it been done appropriately? The P3O key implementation outputs, are they fit for purpose? And the activities to implement a temporary program or project office, has it been done appropriately? So these are some of the things that we should examine in this particular module. On the next slide, we shall look into the outline plan for a P3O establishment and PPM maturity development program. Here we have just an example, a project management implementation plan. You could kind of break it down into key phases with certain milestones, milestone 1, milestone 2, milestone 3, 4, and 5. This is just a representation of a plan, but we shall kind of do a deep dive on the aspects of implementation lifecycle on the next slide onwards. So over here we have an example of a permanent P3O implementation lifecycle. And the recommendation is to use a program management thinking. So here is an example of a program management lifecycle. Now the product that would help you in understanding program management thinking is a product called MSP. MSP stands for Managing Successful Programs. So MSP talks about themes and principles and processes. So the slide contains a life cycle or an approach towards managing the program. Can I just take you through some of the elements of this particular life cycle? This is a program management life cycle. So the trigger for a program is usually a mandate. A mandate could be a senior management directive in terms of we need to have a P3O in place. So that mandate would trigger the first phase in the program life cycle, which is the identify phase. So as a part of the identification phase, we begin our journey by doing a current state assessment. In other words, what are our existing capabilities? What are the problem areas? Where do we stand as of today? And then what is our vision? Where is it that we would like to be? We would like to create an outline vision statement. What are our investment objectives? What are our investment goals? And we could kind of create a very indicative business case, a very high-level business case, including some high-level risks. At this particular stage of the program, we might not have a greater visibility on our cost, on our timelines, on our benefits and detailed risks, but we could live with an indicative or an outline business case. So what do? We kind of capture all of these ideas in one bigger document called a program brief. So we take the program brief, take it to the members of the program board and ask them to sign off on the brief and to sign off on phase 1 so that we could move on to the definition phase. So in the definition phase, we plan on a detailed team acquisition strategy. What kind of resources do we need? What kind of people do we need? What kind of equipment or tools are required? And who are the stakeholders that we need to engage with? Who are the powerful highly interested, highly influential stakeholders? How do we cater to their comms needs? And the vision statement that we created over here, the outline vision statement under the identification phase, is elaborated into a detailed vision statement over here. We create a blueprint document. So the vision statement would result in a very detailed desired future state in a blueprint document. We articulate the benefits in terms of benefit profiles, benefit maps, and we document a detailed business case over here. Remember, in the preceding phase, we have created an outline business case, but over here, we have a detailed business case because we have a better visibility on our costs, a better visibility on our benefits and our risks. So all of these elements, we kind of make sure that we capture in one big larger document called the portfolio definition document and a program plan. And we take those documents, take it to the members of the program board and ask them for a sign-off to move into the delivery phase of the program. Now, delivery phase could be done in multiple tranches or in multiple stages. For the sake of representation, we just have one stage over here. So as a part of delivering, we are working on multiple projects which are rendering multiple outputs. A combination of outputs would give us new capabilities, and the capabilities would need to be transitioned for us to realize benefits. And the moment we come to the last tranche of delivery, we make sure that we plan effectively for closing the program. So end of the closing phase, we create our end program or project reports, and we make sure that we engage with stakeholders and we communicate across different layers across the life cycle of the program. So that's a big picture understanding of the program implementation life cycle. Let's kind of look into some nitty-gritties of the implementation life cycle. It's recommended that the implementation of the P3O model is run as a program with appropriate governance, a P3O sponsor in place to act as a project executive or senior responsible owner, and an appropriate life cycle and processes are followed. The nature of the change the P3O model will bring will be widespread, affecting multiple stakeholder groups, requiring changes to business processes and relationships, and requiring a shift in mindset and behaviors. It may therefore be necessary to implement the change as a program using MSP principles, processes, and products. So the recommendation is to use a program thinking and a program approach for implementing. Having said that, some organizations may not have the program management capabilities, and therefore they could kind of fall back on a project approach, and that's perfectly fine. In a small organization where P3O unit is simply one or two individuals, the P3O implementation may simply be managed as a series of small business changes being delivered as part of business as usual. Now let's kind of do a deep dive on each of the phases of the implementation life cycle. Let's begin with phase one. So what are the questions we are addressing as a part of phase one thinking? So we're asking the question, what problems are we trying to solve? What business drivers do we need to meet? So when defining the issues and problems that senior managers rate as critical, they need to be asked their views and consensus gained across a group of senior managers, preferably the main board. This ensures that the P3O team understands what success looks like across the organization from different viewpoints and allows them to gain consensus on a common P3O vision. Gathering these views and gaining consensus may take the form of a series of structured interviews or workshops. Another question that we might want to address is what P3O provision exists currently? What is the current capability of the P3O? I mean, when we kind of look into the practical environment, the best-in-class P3O models are not implemented in greenfield sites. By greenfield, we mean organizations which have no P3O capabilities whatsoever. Organizations often have some capabilities in terms of managing projects and programs, carrying out some, if not all, of the services required by the ideal model. Therefore, in order to create a vision of what the P3O model should be providing, we need to understand what is offered now and how effective it is. So another key question that we need to ask as a part of identification phase is what will be the scope of the office or model? Who will be its customers? If it is a portfolio management office, the customers might be members of the portfolio board. If it is a program management office, the members could be members of the customers could be members of the program board and other management staff at the program level. So it's important to ask the question, who will be its customers? What outcomes added value are we expecting? How will we measure its success? What are the key services? What are our priorities? We could use a Moscow technique